His stepfather, Leonard Polk, is on trial in a big federal drug case. A longtime friend is awaiting trial on murder charges. Wagner looms in the background of both cases. Then there's his 17-year-old sister, who fell from a school bus and fractured her skull. On January 16, 2001, during a quiet Tuesday in Camden, New Jersey, a young high school player by the name of Dajuan Wagner scored 100 points in a single game. He led Camden High to a whopping 90-point victory, 157-67. Despite being 6'2", Dajuan was widely regarded as the best scorer in high school basketball, and also the greatest high school player in the history of New Jersey. So, what happened? Who is Dajuan Wagner, and how come most NBA fans today have no idea who he is? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today we're going to talk about the tragic rise and fall of Dajuan Wagner, one of the best high school prospects the world has ever seen. And yet, there were a multitude of things that led to his horrendous downfall. First and foremost, we gotta understand who Dajuan Wagner is. As a young kid growing up in Camden, it was rough. Basketball is a huge part of the city's culture, and Dajuan was a prodigy ever since he was in elementary school. In a town with not much to celebrate, Dajuan stood out and brought everyone together through his incredible talent on the court. Off the court, it was a bit rough, and he was going through some things that he never wanted the public to know. According to a Camden police officer, he said, Wagner was often in the courtroom during the trial of his stepfather, Leonard Polk. This is a city where people are trying to survive. Somebody like Dajuan comes along, you've got to celebrate him. We know the kids who get in trouble in this city. He's not one of them. Even as a teenager, Dajuan hung out with a lot of celebrity athletes. Ray Lewis of the Baltimore Ravens, Jesse Armstead of the New York Giants, and especially Allen Iverson. They were very close and would frequently hang out whenever Iverson came to Jersey to play. His father, Milt Wagner, was also a basketball player from Camden. He only played 53 games in the NBA, but he was part of that 1988 Lakers team, who won the championship. Basically, Dajuan had a ton of basketball influence in his life, and he was already a high-profile athlete before even entering the NBA. Everyone believed he was gonna be the next great superstar. While a lot of hyped-up high schoolers flop in college, Dajuan was not one of them. In fact, he cemented his status in college. In his lone season at Memphis, Dajuan averaged over 21 points a game before declaring for the NBA draft. Now, coming into the 2002 draft, he was projected to be a top 5 pick. Eventually, he would get drafted number 6 by the Cavs, just 1 year before LeBron got there. At the time, the Cavs were awful. They had some decent players in Ricky Davis and Carlos Boozer, who were still fairly young but looked like they could be solid starters. Then there was Zydrunas Ilgauskas, an all-star, but he had a history of ankle and foot injuries that slowed him down. At 19 years old, Dajuan joined a discombobulated Cavs team. Nobody expected much out of this team, or this organization. But Dajuan got off to a blistering start. In his first 10 games of his NBA career, he scored over 20 points 5 different times. He was in the Rookie of the Year conversation right off the bat. In just his 9th game, he scored a career-high 33 points. You know, when I say that, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. A career-high 33 points in his 9th ever game? That's a bad sign if you have your career high this early, because you know he probably didn't get better from here. That career high would remain the same for the rest of his career, because after his incredible first 10 games, he rapidly fell off and was never the same again. Dajuan literally peaked in the 9th game of his career. On the bright side, that's like 8 games later than Michael Carter-Williams. So there were a couple reasons why he fell off so quickly. During his rookie season, he was constantly traveling back and forth between Cleveland and his hometown of Camden in order to attend his stepfather's trials. Apparently, his stepfather got caught up in a huge federal drug case. He also had a childhood friend who was accused of murder, so Dajuan was attending his trial as well. And then his 17-year-old sister fell out of a school bus and cracked her skull. So throughout the NBA season, he would make frequent trips back to Camden to take care of his family and friends, which made sense. He was a great kid. When a reporter asked him about this and how he was handling all of this, Dajuan stated, "A lot of this stuff has been hard to get out of my head. All I can do is hope that it makes me stronger." To make matters worse, Dajuan was also dealing with injuries of his own. In his first 2 seasons in Cleveland, he missed almost half of the team's games. Then, in his 3rd season, he missed almost an entire year. According to an article, it stated, "Wagner's health problems toppled along with dominoes, a bladder infection, torn cartilage in the right knee, an inflamed liver and pancreas, a sprained ankle, and another surgery on the same knee. All of this, in combination with all the court trials, they were happening within the first 3 years of his NBA career, constantly." That's pretty crazy, and really upsetting too. The thing is, when you hear about a high school player who just can't make it in the pros, it's usually because, their skills just didn't translate over, and they become a bust because of that. But for Wagner, it was so much more than that. All of these off-court issues took a huge toll on him mentally. It was way too much for a young 19-year-old to handle. However, as the years went by and in the games where he was healthy and he did play, he wasn't very good either. He could not match the same energy, the same talent he showed in his first 10 games. In his rookie season, he averaged about 13 points and 3 assists per game, but in the next seasons, his minutes and production dropped significantly. So after 3 years in Cleveland, the team did not even offer him a contract extension. The Cavs didn't really care though, since, as you know, a year later, they drafted LeBron James, and he was starting to take over the league. Dajuan Wagner became an afterthought. LeBron had already cemented his status as a superstar and became the team's clear-cut best player. LeBron was also the hometown kid who was about to bring Cleveland to new heights. And of course, he started to get all the media attention, and as a high schooler coming in, he was even more popular than Dajuan Wagner himself. As a result, Wagner faded into the shadows. And despite all the high hopes for him, most fans just forgot about him. I mean, I would too if my team drafted LeBron James. Unfortunately, his life did not get better. In October of 2005, he had to get surgery to replace his colon. A few months before, he was diagnosed with colitis, a debilitating inflammation of the colon. This caused him to have chronic stomach aches, abdominal pain, diarrhea, high fevers, weight loss, and muscle weakness. He was getting destroyed by this colon condition, so there was nothing else he could do. After getting the surgery, Dajuan was forced to miss the entire 2005-06 season to recover. Dejected and depleted, Wagner said, "After getting out of the hospital, for 6 months, I couldn't do anything, just a lot of sitting around the house." It was also around this time when his stepfather's trial was finally over, and Leonard Polk was sentenced to lifetime in prison. It was a disastrous start to Dajuan's NBA career. In fact, I can't think of a worse start in NBA history. However, for a short period of time, things were looking okay. Dajuan continued to work out and get back into shape, hoping to make an NBA comeback. At just 23 years old, his career was far from over. And so, in September of 2006, a couple weeks before that season started, the Golden State Warriors offered him a 2-year, $1.6 million contract, which he happily accepted. He'll take anything he could get at this point. But, and yep, there's always a but, after playing just 1 game for this team, he got waived. They didn't give him any reason why they waived him, but between Baron Davis, Monte Ellis, Jason Richardson, and Kelena Azubuike, they already had enough guards, and they were more talented than he was. There was just no room for Dajuan. At this point, it was quite clear that this was his final chance at making an NBA roster, and it didn't work out. About a year later, Dajuan would try his hands overseas and would sign with a team in Poland. But, yup, there's another but. Shortly after signing with them, he would suffer a hip injury and then re-injure the same knee he got surgery on back in 2004. This man just couldn't catch a break. After another year of rehab and recovery, Dajuan, still at just 25 years old, was still trying to make a comeback. He continued his workout routine and stayed in shape, and a couple of teams did give him a quick glance, but he didn't get any offers. This would be it. Dajuan's professional basketball career would end right here, in 2008, at the young age of 25. He finished his career playing in a total of 103 games, averaging about 9 points and 2 assists per game. Fast forward all the way to 2015, and he still wanted to play basketball, so he joined the AmeriLeague. AmeriLeague was supposedly a new professional basketball league in the making, hoping to rival the NBA in the future. They even signed a bunch of former NBA players to contracts. Since you've probably never even heard of AmeriLeague, you can assume that it never took off. Apparently, the owner was a complete fraud. He was operating under a fake name and fake identity, and he actually had a history of criminal activity. So yeah, that did not go well. In recent times, Dajuan has moved back to New Jersey and is living a normal, humble life. No extravagant mansions, no expensive jewelry, not even a basketball hoop in his front yard. He did make approximately $11 million in his NBA career, and he's been spending it wisely, not splurging on things he doesn't need. Wagner will go down in history as a name on a long list of high school stars who were unable to make it in the pros. Anyway, that's all, folks. At one point, Dajuan Wagner was a high school sensation, the biggest basketball star in the country. The injuries and illnesses, his stepfather's trial, and all the off-court problems in general hindered any chance he had to make it. Perhaps his game could not translate over to the pros either, but everything on top of that certainly did not help. But he's certainly one of those guys who we truly did think he'd make it big. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.